Now that international breaks are done, it's back to Premier League predictions. By the way, check out my video that I made about Ballon d'Or nominees during the break. Last week I got 4 points, very bad, taking me to a total of 42 points. So let's begin. This week is starting off with Spurs versus West Ham. Spurs were up 3 goals to Brighton, but somehow let it slip. I don't know what it was. Within 20 minutes, they absolutely threw the game. West Ham, on the other hand, finally had a good result. Finally gave a team a battering, and that was on Ipswich. Like I said last week, I was going a little too hard on West Ham, and now that they faced a team that's easier in quality and just overall to play against, they had a good result. This game is going to be in Spurs' stadium, but I don't think that's going to help them, and I don't think they'll be throwing the game as hard as they did against Brighton. I think West Ham can get a result here, and I think I'm going to go with a 2-2 draw. Next up is Ipswich versus Everton. Ipswich, like I mentioned, got absolutely battered against West Ham 4-1. Phillips had a horrendous game. He was playing like he was still on West Ham. He was playing for the opposite team. Terrible game. I don't want him back at City. I really don't. I think we should just sell him for whatever we can. Delap, on the other hand, is someone we should have kept a backup for Holland. He got himself another goal. And Everton had a terrible game against Newcastle, or they both had a terrible game. It was just boring overall. I saw the first half and I turned it off. I couldn't watch that. This game is going to be at Ipswich's home. I think this is a game where they can get some points. Everton is one of those teams at the bottom, and I think they will get it here. I think they're going to win 2-1 against Everton. Next up is United versus Brentford. United had a good result against Aston Villa. No one really saw that coming. Everybody thought that was Ten Hag's last game, but they ended up getting a draw. And Brentford managed to put 5 against Wolves. High scoring game that was. They also got another early goal. It wasn't in Mbeumo, but it was still an early goal. And I have a feeling that's going to happen again here against United. And then United don't really have any way of scoring. They haven't scored in their last 3 games. And I think it might end as a 1-0. Early goal from Brentford, and it ends like that. Next up is Fulham versus Villa. As I mentioned earlier, United tied against Villa. I don't know how Villa let that slip at home. It was probably hung over the Bayern game in the Champions League. But yeah, they got 1 point in that game. And then Fulham had a great game against City. City almost threw that game. Fulham could have won there. Traore just missed chance after chance. 1-on-1 against Ederson, I think twice or 3 times. They could have won that, but they ultimately lost at the end. I think this is a even matchup here, but I don't think Villa is going to let more points slip. I think they're going to win 2-1. Next up is Newcastle versus Brighton. Newcastle, as I said, had just a horrible game against Everton. Very boring game. And then Brighton, the team that came back against Spurs after being 2 down, they came back within 20 minutes and scored 3 on them. Newcastle, for me, to be honest, have been awful. They've been slipping through games. Not really impressed with what they're doing there. And then Brighton is quite the opposite. I've been impressed with them. Some people say they've been slipping through too, but I don't see it. I think they're actually putting in the work, putting in good performances. And I think Brighton is going to get 3 points here deservedly. I think it's going to be 3-1. Next up is Southampton versus Leicester. Southampton playing against Arsenal, scoring first against Arsenal, but then ultimately just losing it. And then Leicester finally getting their first win against Bournemouth. Southampton really need to stop playing out the back. This is not the championship. This is the Prem. Teams are better than you. Just boot the ball long and hope that a forward gets it. They really gave me false hopes in that game. And then Leicester, a beautiful goal from Buonanotte, just won them the game. It was a back and forth game, maybe deserved. I don't know. This game is at Southampton's home, but I don't think Leicester is going to be losing here. I don't think Southampton have enough for Leicester. Leicester have actually been putting in some pretty good performances. I think Leicester here is going to be winning 1-0. Next up is Bournemouth versus Arsenal. Bournemouth, as I said, losing 1-0 to Leicester. And then Arsenal coming back from a goal down and scoring 3 on Southampton. Bournemouth had a weird game with VAR last game. Even Nelson's goal, where he didn't really touch it, but they disallowed it. I don't know if it was offside or interference or something like that. And also, Zarbayani, the center back, had a handball, but it wasn't given to Leicester. I don't know, it was just a weird game. Bournemouth also had a slip-up game there too. I think they've been pretty good, but just couldn't handle Leicester at home. I think Bournemouth could give Arsenal a hard game, but Arsenal have been proving to come back. Like the Leicester game, like the Southampton game, they just come back. They have that in them now. It's a part of their identity, just coming back and winning games. I think it's gonna happen here too. I think Bournemouth is gonna score a goal, but Arsenal is gonna come back and score 2. So 2-1. Next up is Wolves versus City. Wolves scoring 3 on Brentford. 8 goals in that game. I don't know how. Both teams are very low scoring, but they managed to score 8. And then City, I want to say barely beating Fulham. Kovacic came in clutch for us and scored 2. I may be being harsh on City here, but I think this is going to be tight. I don't see us dominating against Wolves. I think it's going to be another hard watch for City fans. I think it's going to be the same story as the Bournemouth-Arsenal game, where Bournemouth, or in this case Wolves, scored first, and then City come back and win. I think it's going to be the same scoreline. I'm going to go with a 2-1 win to City. Next up is Liverpool versus Chelsea. Arguably the best game of the week, or it should be. In recent history between these two teams, it's been 1-1 draws or 0-0 draws, always a draw, except that one game where Liverpool beat them like 4-1. Both teams look solid. Liverpool arguably looks the best from the league, but they have just lost Alisson due to injury, which is a good thing for the rest of the league, especially since their fixtures coming up are extremely hard, but it is at Liverpool's home. I think this is going to be another draw here. I'm going to go with a 1-1 draw again. Then it's the last game of the game week, which is Forest versus Crystal. Forest had a decent result against Chelsea, managing to get a 1-1 draw, even though they had a red card. Chelsea probably should have come back. They had like 20 more minutes to do it. And then Crystal actually had a good game against Liverpool. Liverpool scored that early goal, but then they just fell asleep and Crystal just took over the game. But they just missed too many damn chances. All of them. As a what's his name? Mateta. I almost forgot his name. Mateta. All of them. Just Nketiah, all of them. So both teams played decent last week, but Forest is the one that came out with the result. I think it's going to happen again this week. Forest is actually one of the best teams in my opinion. Well, best run teams in my opinion. And I think they're going to have an easy game here against Crystal, a team who hasn't really gotten there. Questions are being asked of Glasner or just the players of why aren't they performing. And I think Forest is going to have a comfortable game here. I'm going to go with a 3-1 win. And those are my game week 8 predictions. Tell me what you think in the comments. Like and subscribe. And thank you for watching.